the Indian people are so well acquainted with the life and works of Mahatma Gandhi that it would be an insult to their intelligence if I were to begin narrating the facts of his life. I shall, instead, devote myself to an estimation of the place of Mahatma Ji in the history of India's struggle for independence. The service which Mahatma Gandhi has rendered to India and to the cause of India's freedom is so unique and unparalleled that his name will be written in letters of gold in our national history for all time. In order to correctly estimate Mahatma Gandhi's place in Indian history, it is necessary to take a bird's eye view of the British conquest of India. You all know that when the British first set foot on Indian soil, India was a land flowing with milk and honey, and it was the wealth of India which had attracted poverty-stricken Englishmen from across the seas. Today we find that as a result of political enslavement and economic exploitation, the Indian people are dying of hunger and starvation, while the British people who were once so poor and needy have grown fat and rich on the wealth and resources of India. Through sorrow and suffering, humiliation and torture, the Indian people have learnt at long last that the only solution of their manifold problem is the recovery of their lost liberty. Turning to the methods of the British conquest of India, we see that the British never attempted to fight the entire Indian population in any part of the country, nor did they try to conquer and occupy the whole of India at once. On the contrary, they always tried to win over a section of the people through bribery and corruption before they commenced military operations. This was the case in Bengal, where the commander-in-chief Mir Jafar was won over by the British by offering him the throne of Bengal. At that time the religious or communal problem was unknown in India. The last independent king of Bengal, Sirajuddaula, who was a Muslim, was betrayed by his commander-in-chief, who was also a Muslim, and it was the Hindu commander, Mohanlal, who fought with Sirajuddaula till the very last. The lesson that we have learnt from this episode in Indian history is that unless timely steps are taken to prevent and to punish treachery, no nation can hope to preserve its independence. The developments in Bengal did not unfortunately open the eyes of the Indian people in time. If even after the fall of Sirajuddaula in Bengal the Indian people had made common cause against the British, they would have easily succeeded in throwing the unwanted foreigner out of Indian soil. No one can say that the Indian people did not fight in order to retain their freedom, but they did fight altogether. When the British attacked Bengal, nobody attacked them from behind. When, later on, the British fought Tippu Sultan in South India, neither the Marathas in central India nor the Sikhs in the north came to the rescue of Tippu Sultan. Even after the fall of Bengal, it was still possible to overthrow the British through the combination of Tippu Sultan in the south, the Marathas in central India and the Sikhs in the north. Unfortunately for us, this was not done. It was, therefore, possible for the British to attack on part of India at a time and gradually extend their rule over the whole country. The lesson that we have learnt from this painful chapter of Indian history is that unless the Indian people stand united before the enemy, they will never be able to achieve their independence, nor will they be able to preserve it even if they acquired it. It took a long time to open the eyes of the Indian people. Ultimately, in 1857, they woke up and they then made a concerted attack on the British in different parts of the country. When the fight began, the fight that the British historians call the Sepoy Mutiny and we call the First War of Independence, the British were easily defeated at first. But two factors accounted for our ultimate failure. All parts of India did not join in the fight, and what is more significant, the technical skill of our army commanders was inferior to that of the commanders of the enemy forces. Then after the tragic events of Jallianwala Bagh, the Indian people were stunned and paralyzed for the time being. All the attempts for achieving liberty had been ruthlessly crushed by the British and their armed forces. Constitutional agitation, boycott of British goods, armed revolution, all had alike failed to bring freedom. There was not a ray of hope left, and the Indian people, though their hearts were burning with indignation, were groping in the dark for a new method and a new weapon of struggle. Just at this psychological moment, Mahatma Gandhi appeared on the scene with his novel method of non-cooperation or satyagraha or civil disobedience. It appeared as if he had been sent by Providence to show the path to liberty. Immediately and spontaneously the whole nation rallied round his banner. India was saved. Every Indian's face was now lit up with hope and confidence. Ultimate victory was once again assured. For 20 years and more, Mahatma Gandhi has worked for India's salvation, and with him, the Indian people to have worked. It is no exaggeration to say that if, in 1920, he had not come forward with his new weapon of struggle, India today would perhaps have been still prostrate. His services to the cause of India's freedom are unique and unparalleled. No single man could have achieved more in one single lifetime under similar circumstances. Since 1920, the Indian people have learnt two things from Mahatma Gandhi, which are the indispensable preconditions for the attainment of independence. They have, first of all, learnt national self-respect and self-confidence, as a result of which revolutionary fervor is now blazing in their hearts. Secondly, they have now got a country-wide organization which reach as the remotest villages of India. Now that the message of liberty has permeated the hearts of all Indians, and they have got a country-wide political organization representing the whole nation, the stage is set for the final struggle for liberty, the last war of independence. It is not in India alone that a struggle for freedom has been heralded by a spiritual awakening. In the Risorgimento movement in Italy, it was Mazzini who first gave spiritual inspiration to the Italian people. He was then followed by the fighter and the hero Garibaldi, who began the march to Rome at the head of 1,000 armed volunteers. In modern Ireland too, the Sinn Féin party, when it was born in 1906, gave the Irish people a program which was very much similar to Mahatma Gandhi's non-cooperation program of 1920. 10 years after the birth of the Sinn Féin party, that is 1916, the first armed revolution in Ireland took place. Mahatma Gandhi has firmly planted our feet on the straight road to liberty. He and other leaders are now rotting behind the prison bars. The task that Mahatma Gandhi began has, therefore, to be accomplished by his countrymen at home and abroad. Indians at home have everything that they need for the final struggle, but they lack one thing: an army of liberation. That army of liberation has to be supplied from without, and it can be supplied only from without. I would like to remind you that when Mahatma Gandhi commended his non-cooperation program to the Indian nation at the annual session of the Congress at Nagpur in December 1920, he said, "If India had the sword today, she would have drawn the sword." And proceeding further with his argument, Mahatmaji then said that since armed revolution was out of the question, the only alternative before the country was that of non-cooperation or satyagraha. Since then times have changed, and it is now possible for the Indian people to draw the sword. We are happy and proud that India's army of liberation has already come into existence and is steadily increasing in numbers. We have, on the one hand, to complete the training of this army